Heartwarming moment, Billionaire discovers unexpected bond between his disabled daughter and my. Carl Mercer had always been a man of business, but as he stood in the glimmering ballroom filled with crystal chandeliers and the swirl of designer gowns, his heart felt heavy. He scanned the room, his mind racing between numbers and bottom lines, but his gaze fell upon his daughter, Lily. The 10-year-old girl, with her bright eyes and infectious smile, sat quietly by the window, her petite frame curled in a plush chair. Carl's chest tightened, a suffocating mix of guilt and obligation loomed over him. The charity event was meant for something noble, raising funds for adaptive sports programs. Yet in the midst of mingling with fellow affluent executives, Carl wrestled with the knowledge that while he made deals worth millions, he was missing the most valuable milestone of all, his little girl's laughter. He couldn't remember the last time they had shared a moment, just the two of them. His world, seemingly perfect with its lavish parties and expensive toys, felt cold compared to the warmth he saw in Lily's gaze. As the night unfolded, I stepped onto the stage. She was a fiery coach, her spirit radiating through the room, captivating everyone with her story of resilience and hope. She had transformed not only her own life but also the lives of countless disabled children in her struggling community. Her call to action rippled through the crowd, and Carl found himself entranced. He watched as she confidently spoke about courage, camaraderie, and the power of sports to unite. Lily leaned forward, excitement sparking in her eyes. That flicker of hope was something Carl hadn't seen in what felt like an eternity. When Mai invited the children onto the stage, showcasing their skills and joy, tears pricked at Carl's eyes. The laughter and energy filled the air, his heart ached with yearning to bring Lily into this vibrant world. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the evening wore on, Carl noticed Lily's newfound confidence shimmer in the shadow of the stage. She approached Mai with hesitance, monitored by her father's watchful eyes. The two shared a moment of understanding, unspoken bonds stitching in the air around them. Lily's laughter echoed around him, sending warmth through his chest. For the first time, he felt pulled into a world that he had unknowingly kept her from, but when Lily expressed her desire to join Mai's adaptive sports team, something inside Carl shrank back. Panic surged through him. How could he let her risk falling in with a group like that, when he could keep her safe? "You can't, it's dangerous," he barked, the words cutting through his daughter's excitement. Her face fell, crushed under the weight of his disapproval. It was a moment that solidified the chasm between them, raw emotions pouring out like a floodgate reopened. As his heart raced with conflict, Carl wondered, was it better to shield her in their bubble of wealth or let her step into the gritty challenge of life outside? The question lingered, unanswered. Could he truly let go and trust in her independence, or would his fears keep them apart? The night felt suddenly dark, as both father and daughter faced the uncharted territory of their relationship, longing for a connection that seemed more elusive than ever. Carl felt the air thicken with tension as he watched his daughter, Lily, retreat into herself. The sparkle in her eyes dimmed, replaced by a shadow of disappointment that felt like a physical weight in the room. He stood there, frozen, grappling with his anger and fear. He wanted to be the protective father, but deep down, he knew he was suffocating her spirit. Every instinct screamed at him to pull her close, to shield her from anything that might hurt her. Lily turned away from the stage, her small body slumping in the chair. The lively sounds of the charity event around them faded into a blur. Carl was no longer invested in conversations with colleagues or in business deals. Instead, he found himself drawn to the sight of his daughter, who had been his brightest light. And now, that light felt dimmed because of him. As the night's program continued, he felt a push within him. Was this it? Was this how they would always be separated by his fear and misunderstanding? He inhaled sharply. The thought of Lily growing up in a world where safety outweighed living fully struck him hard. "Lily," he called softly, his voice breaking through the noise. She looked up, uncertainty painted across her face. He walked over to her, kneeling to meet her gaze. "I'm sorry." The words felt foreign, like a bridge he'd never crossed before. "I didn't mean to hurt your feelings." But Lily remained quiet, her eyes flicking away from him. It was as if she was trapped behind a barrier he had inadvertently built. "I just worry about you," he added, hoping she would hear the truth behind his words. "I know that I'm protective, but it's because I care. I want to keep you safe." Her small voice broke through the silence, tentative but steady. "I want to try, Dad. I want to be like them." There was determination hidden in her sadness, a desire to break free from the constraints that had been placed upon her. Looking deep into her eyes, Carl felt the walls he had built around his heart slowly begin to crumble. He wanted her to believe that she could do anything, that her life could be rich and filled with experiences that brought her joy. But the fear of losing her, of watching her struggle, was almost paralyzing. "But what if you get hurt?" The question hung in the air, a reflection of his core fear. "But what if I don't?" Lily shot back, her voice firm and fierce. A fire ignited in her expressions, pushing through the remnants of her disappointment. "You're not letting me try. You always tell me I can be anything. Well, let me start with this." Carl looked up toward the stage where Mai continued her passionate speech, each word weaving a tapestry of possibility. He felt a fleeting flicker of hope for his daughter, a realization that perhaps, it wasn't just about protecting her. Maybe it was time to step back and let her find her own path. "Maybe we can visit Mai together," Carl suggested, surprising himself. Talk to her about the team. It was a small step, but it felt monumental. He wished to open that door for Lily, to give her a chance to explore what could be. The surprise in Lily's eyes made his heart swell. "Really?" The light returned briefly, igniting hope within her. "Really?" He smiled, warmth creeping into his chest. Yet, beneath that smile lingered the nagging voice of doubt. What would it mean for them if he let go, if he encouraged her to explore boldly? Carl took a deep breath, ready to face whatever path lay ahead. As the music of the evening floated around them, they stood together, a renewed connection forming in the silence between them. But deep in his mind, the question loomed larger than ever: could he truly learn to let go for her sake? As the laughter of children and upbeat chatter surrounded him, Carl could only wonder about the storm brewing within his heart as they took that first step toward understanding one another. As the evening wore on, the rhythm of the charity event swept Carl and Lily along like leaves caught in a gentle breeze. The sounds of laughter and chattering voices blended into a comforting background as the two of them stood side by side, a tentative understanding growing between them. Carl took a moment to study Lily's face. The shadows were lifting. He felt a pang of pride, mingled with fear, as he realized just how much he needed to trust her. "Do you really think Mai will help?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper, tinged with excitement and uncertainty. Carl nodded, feeling the weight of her gaze. "I think so. She's worked with kids like you, like us." He wasn't even sure what that meant, but he hoped it would be enough. In his heart, he felt her apprehension, wishing he could erase it with a wave of his hand. The program shifted back into focus as they noticed Mai stepping off the stage, her energy infusing the room. She was surrounded by a small crowd, vibrant and engaged, her smile radiating warmth. Every few moments, someone would share a laugh with her, and the light in her eyes was striking a beacon of hope that Carl had never believed could shine so brightly. "I want to talk to her," Lily breathed, the determination in her voice rising again. "Go on," Carl encouraged, surprised at his own willingness to let her take the lead. He felt as if he was standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down at the vast unknown. Still, there was a part of him that sparked with excitement. Taking a deep breath, Lily glided forward, her confidence blooming with every step. Carl watched her approach whose face lit up at the sight of his daughter. It was a small moment, but it felt monumental. Carl's heart raced, a mix of pride and anxiety swirling in his chest as he observed the two of them engage. From where he stood, he couldn't hear their conversation, but he sensed an invisible bond forming, something he had longed to see. Each smile exchanged between them felt like a bridge being built, and he held his breath, even as relief washed over him. As time drifted onward, he could see Lily gesturing with her hands, as animated as ever. Mai responded enthusiastically, and Carl couldn't help but let a smile stretch across his face. The hope nestled deep within him began to stir. But as he watched, he felt an unsettling twist in his stomach. What if he was pushing her into waters deeper than she could handle? Moments later, the laughter broke through his thoughts as Mai bent down, listening intently to whatever Lily had to say. Suddenly, a rush of voices behind Carl called him back to reality. "Hey, Carl!" a colleague shouted. It pulled him away from witnessing this delicate moment, and his heart sank. The familiar hustle of the event returned, pulling him back into conversations layered in business jargon, numbers, and expectations. "I'll be right back," he called to Lily, though he knew it was a hollow promise. As he turned to rejoin the crowd, he felt torn between two worlds. Should he stay and watch, or should he engage with the people he had always prioritized? A sliver of guilt crept in, but as he glanced back, he saw Lily's joy shining bright. Her spirit radiated like the sun breaking through storm clouds. Later that night, they would have to face each other again, and Carl hoped that whatever happened in this moment would be enough to keep the light in her eyes burning. He turned back towards her, feeling small within the grand ballroom, yet somehow more connected to his daughter than he had ever felt before. What would their conversation reveal? Would Lily's newfound courage start to reshape their relationship? And above all, could Carl find the strength to truly support her journey? The night hung in the air, pregnant with possibility, as he prepared for the heart-to-heart that awaited them. As the buzz of the event swirled around him, Carl felt weight pressing on his chest. He pushed through the crowd, momentarily distracted by the laughter and chatter that enveloped the ballroom like a warm blanket. But his mind remained fixated on Lily and Mai. He could still see them, the two of them, framed by the flickering lights and elegant decor. He edged closer, his heart pounding. Lily's smile was infectious. She looked animated as she spoke to Mai, her hands animatedly illustrating her stories, her eyes shining with excitement. A flicker of hope ignited within Carl. Maybe this was the start of something beautiful between them. Carl finally reached the two young women. As he approached, he saw Mai kneeling beside Lily, her expression soft and encouraging. It was rare to see his daughter this engaged, and it made Carl's chest swell with pride. "Hey," Carl started, but the moment felt fragile. He stopped, unsure if he should intrude on their private connection. Instead, he leaned against a nearby column, allowing the moment to play out. "Dad!" Lily beamed, her excitement palpable. "Mai wants to help me with a project. It's all about encouraging kids to share their stories. She said it can be a way for me to connect with other kids." Carl blinked in surprise. "A project? That sounds amazing." The words tumbled out of him, filled with genuine enthusiasm. For the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of relief wash over him. Maybe this was what they both needed to create, to share, to discover. "See, I told you he'd be excited." Lily grinned at Mai, the delight spilling over her words. "We can create a book of stories." Mai said kids need to know they're not alone. Carl exchanged glances with Mai. Her presence was calming, almost magnetic. She nodded at Carl, an encouraging gesture that suggested she could sense the weight he was carrying. "What do you think?" he asked, suddenly aware of the gravity behind his question. Would he be supportive? Could he help weave Lily's ideas into something tangible? His heart raced as he envisioned the obstacles. A whole project meant responsibility, a commitment he wasn't sure he could fulfill. Would he even know how to guide her? "We can start small," Mai said, her voice soothing as a gentle breeze. "Let us meet up next week. We'll build it from there." "A book," Carl echoed, anticipation flooding through him. Ideas began to swirl like autumn leaves, he could see them working together. "I'd love to help out, if that's okay." "Really?" Lily's eyes sparkled with joy. "You'll help too?" "Of course," Carl smiled, feeling a warmth settling in his chest, a warmth long overdue in their relationship. But just as a delightful tension filled the air, the moment buzzed into chaos. The fire alarm suddenly screamed, piercing through the laughter and conversation, causing guests to stir in confusion. The lights flickered, casting shadows that danced erratically across the room. Carl felt a jolt of anxiety rush through him. This wasn't part of the night he had envisioned. "Stay close, Lily," he urged, his parental instinct kicking in. As the crowd began to evacuate, Carl gripped Lily's hand, his heart racing. "Let us go." He shouted over the chaos, but deep down, a nagging fear tugged at him. Would they make it through this together? After all the progress made between them, could it all slip away in an instant? All he could see was the door ahead, and a renewed determination ignited within him. He had to protect their moment, their budding connection. Could they still find the beauty they started to build amid the chaos? As they pushed toward the exit, Carl glanced back at Mai, who caught his eye and nodded solemnly, as if to say, "They will find their way." The uncertainty loomed, but there was also a promise of hope. As they stepped outside into the cool night air, Carl's thoughts raced. What awaited them on the other side of this chaotic moment? The cool night air hit Carl's face like a splash of cold water, shocking him into the reality of their situation. The chaos inside the ballroom faded into a distant hum. Out here, the world was bright and crisp, and he could finally breathe. He clutched Lily's hand tightly, a lifeline for both of them. "Is everyone okay?" Lily's voice broke through the lingering chaos, her youthful concern striking Carl. She scanned the crowd of partygoers, a mix of confusion and worry on their faces, some huddled close together, others anxiously pulling out their phones. "We're fine, sweetheart," he reassured her, trying to match her calm, though he felt anything but. "Just a little scare. But we should stick together, okay?" Lily nodded, but her gaze drifted back toward the entrance, where the flickering lights still blinked erratically. Carl could see that she wanted to help, wanted to engage with the frightened crowd, but a hint of fear flickered in her eyes. It reminded him of all the times they had faced uncertainty together, the whispered fears in the dark and the promises of better days ahead. "Can we go back in?" she asked, her voice soft, almost hopeful. "No, not yet. Let us wait until everyone is clear." He squeezed her hand. "I want you to be safe." With their connection now forged in the face of uncertainty, Carl realized he couldn't turn back. This moment, chaotic as it was, felt pivotal. It stripped away the noise of past disappointments and laid bare the promise of an evolving bond. "Do you remember the story you told me about the hero who faced a dragon?" Carl asked, hoping to distract her from the buzz dying down and the lingering anxiety. "Maybe tonight we could imagine ourselves as that hero and sidekick, helping everyone escape." A smile broke across her face. "Like a team. I can be the brave knight." "Exactly. And I'll be right there with you, keeping you safe," he said, the corners of his mouth lifting in response to her excitement. Lily's laughter rang out above the whispers around them, and for a moment, it felt as though they were the only two people in the world. As they stood together, a figure approached. It was Mai, still glowing from the adrenaline of the events. "Are you two all right?" she asked, concern etched on her face. "We're good," Carl affirmed, grateful for her presence once more. "Just taking a moment." "I'm glad. You were amazing with Lily back there." "She admires you so much," Mai said, her tone reflective. Sometimes, I think it's easier to give her advice than to take it myself, Carl admitted, his vulnerability surfacing. I want to do right by her. Every time I think I get it, life throws something else at us. Mai stepped closer, her eyes locked onto his. You're already doing better than you realize. She sees how much you care. Just don't forget that you're part of her story too. Her words struck a chord within Carl, ringing with a truth he desperately needed to hear. In his quest to support Lily, he often forgot that he too was allowed to be vulnerable, to share his own struggles. For so long, he had seen his role simply as protector. Now he saw an opportunity, a partnership. Before Carl could respond, the sound of a loud clap echoed through the air. An emergency personnel officer was directing people to a safe area away from the building. Everyone, please follow my directions. We're checking to make sure everyone is accounted for. The crowd began to shuffle, and Carl felt the weight of the moment returning. He found Lily's hand slipping into his again. Let us go, he said, lifting their spirits with his growing determination. As they moved toward safety, Carl felt a shift within himself. Despite the worries that loomed, he had the uncanny sense that something beautiful was building between them, moments woven in laughter, creativity, and now, resilience. What would their new project look like? How would they turn the chaos into something more? But as they neared the safe gathering zone, a flash of light illuminated the darkened parking lot, and Carl's heart raced. He turned to find the source, both curiosity and dread bubbling within him. What awaited them over there? The flash in the darkness was blinding, like a mini explosion, illuminating the concerned faces of the crowd and casting eerie shadows on the pavement. Carl squinted, pulling Lily closer as a knot twisted in his stomach. Stay right by me, he whispered, trying to sound confident even as worry flooded his mind. What is it? Lily squeezed his hand tighter, her eyes wide with both fear and fascination. I don't know, Carl admitted, forcing himself to look past the bright light to see what was happening. The radiant glow began to fade, revealing a cluster of people standing around something or someone on the ground. An officer was crouched down, speaking firmly but gently to a figure that seemed utterly still. Let us move, Mai urged, her voice steady, yet urgent. She motioned for them to follow. They made their way toward the gathering crowd, hearts pounding in unison. Once in front, Carl's chest tightened at the sight. A young woman lay on the asphalt, her body limp and her eyes flickering open and closed. An officer was administering first aid while others looked on in a mix of concern and fear. He caught Lily's expression, a blend of horror and empathy. Is she going to be okay? She whispered. I hope so, Carl replied, feeling helpless. But Mai, looking contemplative, stepped forward. Let me get closer, she said, her voice now low and calm. I know a bit about first aid. Carl blinked, surprised by her sudden determination. Are you sure? Yeah, she nodded, clearly resolute. It's okay, I just need to see what's happening. Carl wanted to protest, wanted to pull her back, but something in her eyes made him yield. He exchanged a glance with Lily, and in that moment they both understood, they needed to support Mai. Okay, let us stay right here, Carl instructed, still holding Lily tightly. He watched as Mai approached the officer, her demeanor now transformed, focused, knowledgeable, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding them. The moments dragged on, and Carl shifted anxiously. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were witnessing something monumental. The crowd murmured, some praying softly, others shooting worried glances. Time seemed to stretch indefinitely until finally, the officer stood up, signaling for help. We need a stretcher, he called out, and moments later, 2 more workers rushed in, bringing equipment to lift the young woman off the ground. As they loaded her onto the stretcher, Lily tugged at Carl's sleeve. Will she be all right? Her voice was small, trembling with concern. I hope so, honey, Carl said, wishing he could promise her everything would be okay. The truth felt heavier than ever. Life was unpredictable, chaotic. Just then, Mai turned back to them, her face a canvas of worry but her spirit unbroken. "She's stable," she said, relief flooding her features. "They'll take her to the hospital." Carl felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. Through the panic, Mai had stepped up in ways Carl hadn't anticipated. "You did good," he said, a smile creeping onto his lips. "You really did." Lily's eyes sparkled with admiration as she watched Mai. "You're amazing, Mai." The light-hearted moment felt warm amid the uncertainty. Carl realized that their bond was being tested and transformed in real time, forged in the fires of fear and compassion. But just as the immediate crisis seemed to pass, a ripple of shouts surged through the crowd. "What's happening now?" Carl thought, his heart rate picking up again. A group of people nearby was pointing, faces painted with shock. "What now?" he asked aloud, searching for answers among the chaos. Standing on tiptoe, Carl tried to see over the gathering. His stomach flipped again at the thought of what else could unfold tonight. What more awaited them in this fraught moment? A deep breath was all he could muster as he felt the world shift again. The night still had secrets and they were about to discover what those secrets were. A commotion rippled through the crowd, growing louder as people shuffled and pointed with anxious gestures. Carl's heart raced as he forced his way forward, gripping Lily's hand tighter. What could possibly be happening now? Then he heard a loud crash that resonated through the night air, followed by frantic shouts. Something big had toppled over, but it was the panic and fear in the crowd that truly unsettled him. He could see a mass of shadows moving against the backdrop of the flashing lights, and he felt a surge of dread as he imagined all the things that could go wrong. "What is going on?" Carl called out, trying to assert control over the situation, but his voice was swallowed by the mounting chaos. Lily's small fingers trembled in his grip. "I don't like this, Carl. I want to go home please," she said, her voice breaking slightly as tears glimmered in her eyes. He knelt down to meet her gaze, wiping away her worries with a steady smile. "I know, babe. Just hold on a moment. We'll figure it out together," he reassured, though he felt far from certain himself. Amid the swelling fear, he spotted Mai at the edge of the crowd, her expression a mix of curiosity and alarm. She was scanning the scene, and for a moment Carl caught her eye. It was a fleeting connection, but in that shared glance, he felt a line of solidarity. "Mai!" he shouted, and she turned toward him, a grim determination etched on her face. She darted through the mass of bodies, making her way back to them. "There's a guy down over there," Mai said as she reached them, pointing in the direction where the ruckus had erupted. "He looks hurt. I think he fell off the stage." Carl felt his heart stop. A stage? His stomach dropped at the implications. Why would there be a stage set up here? What's happening? "It might be part of the event," Mai replied, her voice steady. "But we need to help. He could be in trouble." With a nod of agreement, the three of them started moving through the crowd. The throng was thick, pulsing with tension, and the noise swelled, creating an overwhelming backdrop of chaos. Heavy footsteps mixed with anxious chatter, and Carl felt a sense of urgency pit against the lingering fear gnawing at his insides. As they pressed forward, they finally broke into a clearing near the fallen man. He lay sprawled out, surrounded by a few concerned bystanders who were all struggling to help. "Get back!" a voice shouted as Carl and his friends approached, but something in Carl's gut told him they were meant to be there. Lily pulled ahead, her small frame moving closer to the scene. "He looks scared," she exclaimed, her compassion shining through. "We have to help him." Carl exchanged a glance with Mai, and they both realized that these moments were becoming transformative for them all, growing his daughter's empathy in ways he had not anticipated. He reached out and squeezed her shoulder. "Okay, we'll help. But we all need to stick together." With a mix of trepidation and courage, they moved forward. What they saw sent an electric current through the air. The man was bleeding from a wound on his forehead, struggling to sit up as panic flickered in his eyes. Carl's heart ached at the sight. This was terrifying and yet somehow an opportunity, a moment to show kindness in the storm. As they crouched around the man, Mai took charge, her voice rising above the chaos. Just breathe. Help is here. Carl felt an odd sense of pride swelling in his chest. Here they were, finding a way to stand tall while others faltered. But deep underneath, a feeling nagged at him. What if the unfolding night forced them to confront their own vulnerabilities? Just then, a loud siren pierced the air, causing everyone to turn. An ambulance was arriving, but something felt off, shadows darting behind the flashing red lights. What is going on? Carl whispered, his instincts flaring. As he looked around, something caught his eye. Down a side street, a darker figure lurking just past the glow of the emergency lights. Heart pounding in his chest, he turned back to Mai and Lily. We need to go, he said, the urgency in his voice palpable. As they reeled back from the scene, he knew one thing: this night was far from over. The shadows continued to dance around them, the chaos swirling like a storm. Carl's heart raced as he led Lily and Mai away from the fallen man. Every instinct told him they needed to get to safety. The growing noise from the crowd surged behind them, a wave of panic rolling forth. Where are we going? Lily asked, glancing back at the ambulance lights, her fear evident. We just need to find a quieter place, Carl replied, trying to keep his voice steady. But inside, he was a whirlwind of anxiety. The figure he had seen moments ago lingered in his mind, like a dark cloud hovering over them. They slipped around the back of a food stall, where the raucous sounds of the crowd faded to murmurs. Carl leaned against the cool metal side of the stand, catching his breath. The night air felt strangely still here, a contrast to the chaos they had just fled. Do you think he'll be okay? Lily asked, her soft voice breaking through the silence. Her eyes shone with concern. Carl knelt to her level and nodded. Yeah, I think so. The ambulance is there, and they know what to do. He wished he could share more certainty with her, but the image of the injured man haunted him. It was a reminder of how quickly things could unravel. Mai suddenly broke the silence. We have to stay alert. That figure, it felt wrong. What if someone is causing all this? Her brows furrowed, and Carl could see her mind whirring. His stomach tightened. The last thing he wanted was to risk more danger. We'll keep moving, stay close together. Let us find a place to regroup, maybe check in with the others. The three of them stepped away from the stall, moving carefully along the side of the event area. Inside, music still thumped, and people danced, blissfully unaware of the turmoil outside. It felt surreal to Carl, like watching a movie where everyone else went on living, while they stood on the edge of some unknown precipice. As they rounded the corner, they were greeted by a large open area filled with families and friends enjoying a fireworks display. Bright bursts of color lit up the sky, moments of beauty against an otherwise tense backdrop. Carl couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Wow! Lily exclaimed, mesmerized by the spectacle. Look, Carl. Can we watch for a minute? Carl hesitated, glancing at Mai. He knew they needed a moment to breathe, to regain their composure. He took a deep breath and nodded. Sure, just for a minute. They stood together, watching the fireworks bloom and pop in the night sky. For a brief moment, laughter and wonder displaced fear. Lily's eyes sparkled, and even Mai cracked a smile. He felt the warmth of their shared joy, a reminder of the beauty in life, even amid chaos, but then a crackle of static from a nearby officer's radio shattered the illusion. All units, proceed to the south end of the park. We need backup, possible suspect sighted. Carl's heart sank. The beauty of the fireworks faded as reality crashed back in. We need to get away from here, he urged. Now. They turned to leave, but a sudden movement at the edge of the fireworks light caught Carl's eye. There it was again, a figure, emerging from the shadows, eyes calculating and intent. Fear tightened its grip on him. Come on. He urged his daughter and Mai, glancing back to see the figure moving toward them. They were no longer just spectators, they were part of an unfolding story that felt more real and more dangerous than anything they had anticipated. Run! Carl shouted, adrenaline surging through him as the figure broke into a sprint. But would they make it out unscathed, or would the night's events unravel into something more terrifying than just a mere accident? Carl's instincts kicked in, urging him to sprint toward the nearest exit. They darted between frightened festival-goers, their laughter replaced by shouts and gasps. The vibrant colors of the fireworks blurred in Carl's mind, overtaken by the dark figure relentlessly pursuing them. "Keep up!" he yelled, glancing over his shoulder. Fear thrummed in his chest as the shadow behind them grew closer. Mai held onto Lily's hand tightly, her eyes wide but determined. "Dad!" Lily cried out, her breath coming in quick gasps. "Why are they coming after us?" "It's not us, sweetheart. Just keep moving," Carl replied, his heart racing. He fought the urge to shelter his daughter, to turn back and face whatever was chasing them. They needed to escape. As they rounded a food cart, Mai led them down a narrow path lined with vendors packing up for the night. The smell of popcorn and cotton candy lingered in the air, but there was no time to stop for sweetness. The joyous atmosphere was replaced by a charged uncertainty. "Where do we go?" Mai asked, fear edging her voice. There's a side exit near the restroom, Carl remembered, scanning his surroundings desperately. They needed to get lost among the crowd. They picked up speed, veering toward that exit. The crowd was thinning, and the sound of their footsteps quickened against the pavement. Just as they approached the corner, Carl hesitated. "Is that?" He squinted. A familiar figure was standing at the exit, arms crossed, eyes scanning the crowd. It was Hank, their neighbor. Carl's heart warmed momentarily before dread took over. Hank's usual good-natured demeanor was replaced by tension, his brow furrowed, clearly aware something was wrong. "Carl!" Hank shouted, rushing to meet them. "What's happening?" "No time. We need to get out of here." Carl grabbed Lily's hand tighter, pulling her closer. "Right, let us move." "I'll help you out," Hank urged, his eyes darting around in concern. The familiar voice provided a semblance of comfort, but it wasn't enough to drown out the panic thrumming in Carl's veins. They bolted toward Hank as the figure lurked at the entrance, momentarily blinded by the fireworks finale lighting up the sky. It was now or never. "Hurry!" Hank urged, breaking into a run. They followed, adrenaline sending them flying toward the exit. Just as they crossed through, Carl dared a glance back, but the figure had vanished into the haze of lights and shadow. "Where to now?" Mai asked, breathing heavily. "Just keep moving away from here, we'll find somewhere safe," Carl replied, guiding them down the street lined with parked cars. The night sky was slowly dimming as the last fireworks flickered out like tiny stars. "Do you really think we're safe now?" Lily asked, her words tumbling out with an innocent urgency that pierced Carl's heart. "Yeah, for now," he reassured, though he felt his breath catch. The memory of the figure's intense gaze lingered in his mind. "I don't like this, Carl. What if he finds us?" Mai added, trying to keep her voice steady, but he could sense her fear. "Let us find a place to breathe, maybe the diner down the road." "We can regroup there," Carl decided, shoulders relaxing slightly at the thought of finding refuge. As they turned the corner, the neon lights of the diner flickered ahead, casting a welcoming glow in the growing darkness. "We should be okay," Carl murmured, but deep down, uncertainty gnawed at him. Once inside, they slid into a booth, grateful for the sense of normalcy in the smell of coffee and fried food. Carl felt exhausted, but he couldn't bring himself to relax just yet. "Dad," Lily whispered, "what if the figure comes here?" Carl drummed his fingers against the table, heart pounding. He couldn't shake that unsettling feeling creeping in, the thought that they were not out of danger yet. He looked at Mai. What did you really mean when you said it felt wrong? Did you see something? Her eyes widened, pondering the question. I don't know. It just felt like we weren't supposed to be there. Like something bad was coming. Carl's stomach knotted with unease. Just then, the diner door swung open, and in stepped a figure silhouetted against the streetlights outside. He knew, instinctively, that this was just the beginning. Would they uncover the truth behind the shadows, or was something darker waiting just around the corner? Carl felt a jolt in his chest as the door creaked open. Time seemed to slow as all eyes turned toward the newcomer. Fear wrapped around him tightly, a cold, clammy grip. The figure stepped into the warm glow of the diner, and Carl's entire body tensed. Stay close, he whispered to Lily as he caught the flicker of her wide eyes. The stranger wore a hood that cast a shadow over his face. Carl felt a flood of panic wash over him. He couldn't help but think of the chase and the chaos that had just engulfed their evening. But then, as the figure stepped into the light, recognition curled its way into Carl's mind. It was a local reporter, someone who had been covering the event, not a threat at all. Hey folks. Sorry about the commotion outside, the reporter called over, his voice amiable. There was some excitement, but everything is under control. Relief surged through Carl as he glanced around the diner at the faces of the other patrons. They seemed unbothered, absorbed in their own meals and conversations. It was a normal night for them, but for Carl, everything felt like it had shifted irrevocably. Are we okay? Lily asked, her small voice cutting through the thoughts that whirled in Carl's mind. Yes, sweetheart, he replied, taking a deep breath. We're okay. Carl watched as Mai relaxed slightly, her shoulders dropping, though the look in her eyes still reflected the chaos of the night. We were really worried, she admitted, leaning in. We thought someone was after us. The reporter continued, there was a minor incident, fell off the stage, but I assure you, all is fine now. His casual demeanor eased Carl's heart a little more. As they settled into their booth, Carl reflected on everything that had happened. Just hours ago, they were laughing and connecting at the charity event, and now here they were, entangled in fear and uncertainty. Let us use this moment, he said, breaking the silence. Let us talk about the project, about the stories we want to share. It was a pivot that felt necessary, a chance to steer their focus away from the night's turmoil and back toward hope. Lily's eyes lit up, a glimpse of that spark he had seen at the event. That sounds good. We can write about things that matter to kids, right? Like friendship and courage. Exactly, Mai chimed in, her enthusiasm revitalizing the mood. And how we can help each other when things get tough. Carl felt the warmth returning, embers of love and connection flourished anew. I want to be part of this, really, he said, his voice firm now. Not just as your dad, but as your teammate too. Lily beamed at him, a radiant smile that reached her eyes, illuminating their little booth. It was as if all the worries of the world were distilled in that moment, igniting something fresh between them. The waitress came by for their order. Carl chose coffee to regain some energy, but Lily opted for a hot chocolate, and Mai picked a piece of pie. They laughed over the drinks and food, the camaraderie palpable now. As they shared stories and dreams over their meal, Carl felt the night's chaos begin to fade. He watched Lily and Mai connect, the warmth of their bond wrapping around him. Just then, the door swung open once more, and the panic that had ebbed surged back momentarily. But it was only Hank returning with a couple of the other neighbors, looking concerned but relieved to find Carl and the girls safe. Oh, thank goodness. With all that happened, we feared the worst. Hank exclaimed, glancing around the diner, taking in the normalcy contrasted with the earlier chaos. Everything is under control, Carl reassured him, sharing a glance with Mai that spoke volumes about their newfound understanding. No more hiding, Mai said, the words like a gentle promise. We'll face all the stories together. Carl nodded, his heart swelled. This was a pivotal moment, where fear transformed into action and concern blossomed into hope. They could be a family joining forces to uplift not just each other, but others too. As the group settled into a booth, laughing and recounting the earlier chaos, a new promise took root. A pledge to embrace life fully, to engage with its challenges and its joys alike. They would not shy away from adventures and would carry each other through whatever storms might come next. With hearts lighter and spirits renewed, Carl reflected on the journey ahead. The figure, the chaos, the fear, they were markers of the past, reminders that together, they could handle anything. As they all gathered around the table, sharing laughter and dreams, hope glimmered brighter than it ever had before. "Let us build our story," Carl said, feeling a wave of excitement ripple through him. Together. Now was the time to embrace their challenges, to celebrate their victories, and to create a bond forged in the fires of adversity. As a new chapter unfolded in their story, Carl knew that he was ready to embrace life as it came, with laughter, with love, and, most importantly, with Lily and Mai right beside him. And now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to show your support and help feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this touching ending. We want to hear your thoughts, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans like you understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.